Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this RE019, where I take old stories and update them to modern standards. This particular story is called Continuing the Cycle, written by RegalLegalEagle. She stood on the platform, looking down the valley as it was cast in an orange glow of the setting sun. It truly was beautiful, but that's not why she was here. To be honest, she was a little surprised he was so quiet, though she knew why. It's pointless thinking about it. What? You're thinking about how you could have left. How you could have taken your money, grabbed whoever's special to you, and made off months ago. How there was a chance that you'd have made it, and been living a nice quiet life somewhere else, past the setting sun. She shook her head. You were wondering why there always had to be one more job, one more opportunity, one more last little scrap to take before you were ready. And now it's too late. She stood at the edge of the platform and pulled some papers from her belt to start rolling herself a smoke. A week. That's all I needed. The Xeno let out a raspy cough as his thorax continued to fill with bile. It was impressive in a way. Most creatures would die if they got shot in the neck. These would paralyze themselves and emit a foul-smelling bile and toxin that simultaneously worked towards healing the wound and driving away natural predators. The problem was that she wasn't a natural predator. In fact, the only reason she'd shot him in the throat was so that this could happen. Her employer wanted him alive. It wouldn't have been next week, she said with a sigh. Next week, it would have been next month. Next month, it would have been next year. There's always that desire for more. That idea that you can take just a bit more with you when you go. Until something happens and suddenly it's too late. She finished rolling her smoke and was about to light it up when she paused. She hated wasting matches. Walking over to the Xeno, she saw him staring intently at his gun just inches away from his outstretched arms, as if he was willing his fingers to grab it. But they weren't listening. She tugged his duster open and checked his pockets before pulling out a grainy picture of him with another of his kind. They looked happy. "This your special someone?" she asked, standing over him. "Please, I'll tell you whatever you want to know." His eyes had left the gun and were now staring up at her, pleading. "You don't have anything I want to know." "The location of the money." "They'll find out soon enough." "Where to find the others?" "I found you. I'll find them." Please, no one knows about us. Just... He wheezed then as the bile kept filling up. She looked at him for a moment before carefully pulling out a match, striking it on the box and cupping her hands to protect the flame as she lit her smoke. Once she had it going, she didn't shake it out, the match though. Instead, she lit the corner of the picture. Only then did she shake out the match and let it drop. Her eyes followed the path of the flame as it ate away at the picture, devouring the happy couple it contained. When just the corner was left, she let it go, watching the last piece drift off down into the valley. "Thank you." His breathing was getting harder. Soon, he wouldn't be able to talk. Maybe you could just finish me?" He sounded hopeful, but as she looked down at him, she took a long draw of her smoke and shook her head. "No. You steal from the law, they'll throw you in jail. You steal from him, he sends me, and you become an example." Once she was done talking, she let the smoke out, watching it move with the breeze. As she looked down the valley, she caught the movement of a shadow for a moment. Then she shielded her eyes against the sun and spotted the incoming ship. "Well, that's my cue. Tell them everything they ask, and they should make it quick." "Please, I'm scared," he whimpered. She glanced down at the Xeno, twice his size, knowing before all this he had a reputation of being a hulking, threatening menace. Now look at him. She took another drag on her smoke before exciting, "Yeah, I was too." The ship was drawing near as she walked past him and his own ship to her speeder. She climbed on and quickly started it up, flying off the platform just as the ship arrived to pick up the first delivery. She already knew where to find the next one. Somewhere along the way, she'd find the others too. "Honey, we have to move quickly, all right? Just grab your things and throw them in. We don't have time to be neat about this." Her dad was moving quickly, and she'd never seen him like this before. He was taking everything out of the house and tossing it into the old kurgan they used to haul the crop into town. Tim was trying to help, but the old robot couldn't move very quickly, and often her dad just shoved him out the way as he walked past.
I thought we had to wait before we moved, so it didn't look suspicious,
she said, feeling very afraid with how her dad was acting. She was currently standing in the doorway, clutching her stuffed bunny. Sometimes she felt like she was too old for such things, but it always helped her remember Mom. We were going to, but now we're not.
But what about Uncle Grasmex and Aunt Kiva?
Dad had been acting weird since 2 days ago when something had happened to Mr. Green. She hadn't liked him. He was always so mean to everyone else. But she knew that he worked with Dad when he left the farm sometimes. Change your plans, sweetie. Please, just go get your stuff, all right? Dad turned to her, and she could tell that he was trying to calm down, understanding that he was scaring her. But then she heard the soft noise, soft like a pfft. Before his eyes went wide, and then he fell forward, collapsing to the ground with a massive dart sticking out his neck. She was too scared to scream as Tim dropped the mirror he was holding and pulled out his knife. "Morning, threat detected," was all he could say before a bullet slammed into his shield. She saw the blue shimmering light for a moment before the second bullet pierced the old shield and hit Tim's torso, exploding as it did and sending his torso flying away from his legs, rifle flying out of his hands. This time, she did scream, confused and terrified. Casey, go hide, her dad gasped out, face down in the dirt, for some reason not moving, not rising up to save her like he was supposed to. So she ran to the only spot she knew, into the bathroom next to the door and into the cabinet just under the sink. She clutched her bunny, crying softly. She could see out through the little hole in the wall. Dad was just outside. Tim's upper torso was crawling towards the rifle several yards away. Casey, I can hear you crying, baby girl. I know you're scared. I know that, but you gotta stop. You gotta be totally quiet, no matter what. Stay quiet until everyone's gone.
But Dad...
I need you to do this, honey. You've got to be brave. Remember the story Mom used to tell you about your bunny? About how brave he was to make it here?
Dad, that's just a...
Just think about the story, Casey. Please. The pleading in his voice was something she'd never heard before. It scared her, but she closed her eyes and tried to control her breathing. She stopped crying and just began to slowly breathe in and out, and in and out. Calm. For a while, all she could hear was the wind and the mechanical grinding of Tim trying to crawl to his rifle. Then she could hear footsteps. When she peeked through the hole, she could see someone in a black duster walking closer. The person kicked the rifle away from Tim. He tried to grab the person's leg, but they just pulled out of his grip and kept walking. So Tim went back to crawling towards the rifle that was now several more yards away. When the person got to her dad, she could see that it was a woman. Short hair, solemn face, sad eyes. She'd never seen such sad eyes on a person who wasn't crying before. The woman reached down and rolled her dad over. "You're right there, Henry. Can you breathe fine?" "I can breathe just fine," he said, as the woman pulled the dart out of his neck. "Did you already call him? Is the ship on the way?" "No, not yet. I wanted to make sure that you were still doing fine. The darts can be tricky sometimes." The woman looked at the old beat-up Kogan half full of things from the house. "Doing some house cleaning there, Henry?" "Just a bit. You wouldn't believe. I was just planning on having a yard sale, huh?" No, I don't think I would." She glanced over at Tim, still trying to reach his weapon with the single-minded focus of a robot. Just you and the robot out here on the farm, huh? Gotta make you wonder how you can make a living with just the two of you." Casey realized the woman hadn't seen her in the doorway earlier. "Yes, just the two of us. Gotta make it look good for the taxman. Look, I'm sure you're busy, so why not just call him in and get me out of here?" The woman frowned when he said that. "You in a hurry?" "I mean, I'd like to get this over with. The pain and torture just get worse if you prolong it, right?" "Nah, they're pretty bad no matter when it happens. You're very calm about this. People, usually beg and cry." "Would that do me any good?" "No." So why waste time? She didn't know why Dad was saying these things. Was it part of some plan? It had to be. He always had a plan. "Well, let me just make sure the darts didn't dull anything then, Henry." The woman dropped her knee down into Dad's ribs, pressing her weight down hard as he screamed. Casey couldn't help it, and she gasped in surprise and shock as well. The woman looked up as Casey clamped her hand over her mouth. What was that? What? Me screaming, ah! He tried to scream again, but it wasn't the same. The woman stood up, pulling a pistol from her hip as she walked towards the house. Hey, come back here, damn it! It's just me and Tim! Casey heard the woman's footsteps in the house and tried to will herself to be smaller as she heard her dad yelling at the woman to come back outside. For a minute, she thought she might be okay as the woman walked to the kitchen first. But then the footsteps got closer, and suddenly, the door to the cabinet was yanked open. Casey screamed as the woman pulled on her wrist, tugging her out from under the sink. She twisted and pulled, but the woman was strong and didn't let go. Instead, she dragged Casey outside. Jesus, Henry, she's alive? Yes, her dad was crying at this point. Casey was as well, overwhelmed by fear and confusion over what was happening. The cough got her mother, but not her. I thought if I claimed it had and just homeschooled her, no one would try to use her against me. Please, you can't let him know she's alive. The woman holstered her pistol and let Casey go. Casey staggered back, but didn't have anywhere to go, so she clutched her stuffed bunny, feeling the soft synthetic fur catching her tears as she didn't know what else to do. The woman ran a hand through her hair for a moment, taking off her hat as she did. What the feck am I supposed to do here, Henry, huh? You stupid jerk. I already told him that you were in on it. He knows I'm looking for you, and now it turns out Casey's still alive. Why the feck did you never tell me? We didn't think he'd send you. We were careful. Not careful enough, you stupid prick. Why the feck does everyone think they'll get away with it? No one ever does. Every year, he makes an example out of more of you. Don't you remember the Castan brothers? That was just last year. I'm sorry. We thought we had a better plan. And he didn't. The woman groaned and rubbed a hand across her forehead for a moment. The feck am I going to do? I can't keep her a secret from him. The money! What about it? They've had the green schnicks for 3 days now. I'm sure they know where the money is. I moved it. I didn't trust the others. It's hidden somewhere else. Let her go with Tim. Who the feck is Tim? She asked before Casey whimpered out. He's the robot. The woman glanced at Casey and then over at Tim, still crawling towards the rifle. Look, he doesn't care about the robot. Just tell him that the robot and my ship were gone. He just wants me. Load Tim up in the Kurgan with Casey and let them go. Then call him. That's all you have to do, he pleaded. The woman looked at Tim and then Casey for several long seconds before finally walking over to Tim's legs, pulling them towards the crawling robot. Tim, access code Gamma Romeo 435. A new person to trusted list. The robot looked back at the woman and stopped crawling. No more hostiles in present area. I am in need of assistance. I have sustained damage. Yeah, I know, the woman said with a growl, pulling the robot together as she pulled a small handheld welder from her belt. There were some sparks as she did a quick patch job connecting the robot and then pulled it up to its feet. Thank you. Subject owner Henry appears to be suffering from paralytic toxin. Medical attention needs to be acquired. No, Tim, get in the Kurgan. Take Casey to meeting point X-ray and wait. Don't let her go anywhere.
Dad, no,
Casey protested. Casey, honey, it has to be like this. Tim was already walking to the front of the old ship. The woman was picking Casey up, even as she kicked and twisted, reaching out for her dad. I'm sorry, sweetie. She'll have to take care of you now. Her and Tim. Be brave. Casey continued to cry and scream as the woman pulled open the side hatch to the ship, putting her in the co-pilot seat and strapping her in. Tim was warming up the ship already, and Casey couldn't undo the safety harness once the ship started to move. She pounded on the window, tears streaming down her cheeks as the Kurgan lifted off the ground, turning in the air as she saw the woman standing next to her father, and soon they left the farm behind. Henry watched the old ship fly off and sighed. He lay in silence next to the woman until she finally spoke up. Why the feck didn't you tell me, Henry? Because I didn't know how. We haven't spoken in so long. You really named her Casey, huh? Yeah, it's a good name. It's my name. I know. It wasn't fair to Laura, but I thought, I don't know. In another life, me and you could have made an excellent husband and wife. In another life, she agreed. Casey, please, don't let them torture me. I don't know if I'd tell them about the new place I hid the money. I'm scared. She sighed heavily. Where is the new place anyway? You know where it is, he said simply before she snorted. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out another dart like the one from before. The thing about these darts is if you get the mixture wrong, it does too good of a job. The person sort of falls asleep, and that's it. I know he'll be angry, feck him. I've never missed a job yet. I've got room to make a mistake. They stood there in silence for several long seconds before she crouched out beside him. You'll look after her. I'll do what I can, she promised. Then she leaned in to give him a gentle kiss before she jabbed a dart into the side of his neck. When she pulled up, she brushed her other hand through his hair. Goodbye, Henry. Goodbye, Casey. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. Tim had kept her in the old fort for 2 days, making sure to try and feed her regularly. She'd refused at first, saying that she wouldn't eat until he took her back home. But Tim said he couldn't. She cried, she argued, she reasoned, she did what she could. But eventually, she ate again, the pain in her stomach greater than the pain in her heart. On the 3rd day, she saw the ship. It was a new, sleek, expensive looking. It swooped down and landed next to the Kurgan as she watched. The woman got out.
Where's my dad?
Casey ran up to her, trying to punch and kick at the woman, who just shoved Casey back. Kid, I know you're in a bad spot right now, but I'm trying to help, so knock that off. Casey sniffled, obviously upset with the woman, but she stopped. Where's Tim? Tim shuffled out of the old barracks. His servers were having trouble since he'd been shot. I am here. Do you have further instructions? Yeah, get in the Kurgan. I have to take you back. They won't stop looking until they find you, and that's a problem.
You can't. Tim's all I've got,
Casey cried.
You can't take my dad and Tim.
Look, kid, I'm sorry, but this is the way it has to be. I've got you a new ship, and someday you'll understand all of this, but right now I have to take Tim to protect you.
No!
She tried to launch herself at the woman, but she was quicker. She grabbed Casey, picking her up and carrying her to the new ship, as once more the girl struggled against her. But just as before, the woman was too strong. She opened the hatch to the new ship and stuffed her inside, slamming it shut. Casey could watch the woman through the window.
I'll kill you, she screamed. I'll find you when I'm older and kill you.
The woman just looked at her through the window with those same sad eyes. Someday, kid, if you come for me, that's just fine. But I'd hope instead of trying to kill me, you help save me. She turned and walked away, as for the first time, Casey saw some sort of metal chip or implant in the back of the woman's spine. Casey stood quietly then, watching the woman get into the Kurgan with Tim, and the ship took off. This time, Casey was the one left behind to watch the ship fly off to the sky. She looked around the ship and saw a large crate with a note on it. Press the green button. So she walked towards it, pressing the button on the crate. It then hissed, which made her jump back. But it opened up to reveal some much larger, more expensive-looking robot than Tim. She could see the S-M1000 on the chest. The eyes flickered to life, and the robot looked down at her. Greetings, owner designation Casey. I am your new caretaker. My name is designation Sam. The person who purchased me has expressed a desire to train you for the purpose of revenge. This is the process that often takes years and much hard work. Shall we begin? Casey stared at the robot for a moment, and then clutched her small fists and nodded.
Yes.
End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Asrical. Thank you very much.